Dragon Tales.
Let's
Almost
all
time for
time
Dragon
oh.
Tales.
Come along, take my hand. We'll be there, Dragonland.
He finally found the note.
Rhyme or free, it doesn't matter to me. It's my bad poetry. Good day and welcome to My Bad Poetry, a podcast where we take a deep dive into our poems from youth, yesteryear, or even yesterday. Always asking the question, why in the world did I write this? I'm Aaron.
And I'm Dave.
And this week, we are looking at another poem from me.
Boo!
Yeah, I mean, we're done with the Wolf Journal, but we're not done with my antics here. We have a couple options, Dave, that I'll run by you. But before that, what do you have in store for us with your hastily written poem?
Okay. I have two for this week.
Ooh.
One that I wrote, and then my son was upset that I didn't take his advice, so he wrote his own version of my poem.
I love this.
So this is a poem I am calling Minnesota.
Okay.
It was gonna be an ode to Minnesota, and then so it's like an ode, but like Minnesota,
Yep.
like in the middle, like you get it, yeah.
Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Frostbitten toes, sunburnt nose, wind-dried face, sweating every place. Mosquitoes swarm, unbelievably warm, ice-covered roads, shovel snowy loads. Maybe I should roam, but not too far from home.
That's cute.
I like Minnesota. It's awful, and it's the worst, but I also really like it.
Yeah. Okay.
So then the second one is, iceberg nose, so cold toes, nothing to mows, so much snows.
Hey.
I like it.
I like it too. What's Moe's though?
Like to mow,
Oh.
but with an S.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
That's my boy. That's my boy. My daughter also had a contribution, but I don't think that I can, like, put it down into words because it was...
Oh, I like the ode to Minnesota in both versions. That was fun.
It's not an ode to Minnesota. It's Minnesota.
Yeah.
No, Aaron, I need you to say it.
Minnesota.
Close.
Okay.
You tried. I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Well, Dave, we have a couple different options for today.
We could quit.
We could quit. We could call it a day. We could celebrate your poem and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could carry on. So there's a poem that I wrote for school. I have its assignment, and I actually turned this one into a newspaper competition in
which you
didn't win at all.
Okay, cool.
I don't think I even heard back from them, but it was a youth poetry writing thing. So there's this poem. It's titled Birds.
Okay.
Then there's also 4 poems that I wrote for my German class in high school.
Oh gosh.
Which are German, and I will just say flat out, I'm pretty sure all I did was run my poems through like a Google Translate.
Nailed it. Okay,
so
cool.
we can figure out which poems of the Wolf Journal poems I were deemed worthy of translating. Mm-hmm. Or there's this other poem which is far more recent. This is an attempted reflective poem on God that I tried to write for a Lenten service a while ago. And as I was reading it out loud to Abby, she was like, "What is this?" And I ditched it entirely. So eventually we might get to all 3 of those options. But what do you want to tackle today?
Okay. So I would say for this episode, we for sure need to do the attempt at a Lenten poem.
Okay. Okay.
I need to hear it. That it sounds, I was going to say amazing, but maybe like awful, both in the original meaning of like full of awe, but also just plain awful.
Yeah, so this was written in a Google Doc, so I can share that with you.
Ooh. Look at us being fancy.
Okay, so I wrote this when it was... Yeah, okay, Dave.
I'm sorry.
I wrote
Holy
this
cow.
back in my first call, and then I brought it over to my new calls email doc. So I transferred it over in 2022, but it was written earlier than that.
Can I just say, for those of you who are not in ministry, we refer to our calls as in like serving at a church. And also, it feels like you said first call, and after looking at just a little bit of this poem, maybe it should have been last call too.
Now,
Too harsh.
To be clear, this was not read.
Okay.
In front of the...
If it was red, maybe.
Maybe I should have been defrocted the moment.
They just got the bishop on the phone, just like, we got a problem here, friend.
Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, this poem, now this is kind of an epic poem. It's a very long one.
Yeah. I'm seeing like, it's like kind of titled
Oh my gosh.
partway through, like multiple times. Like it looks like it breaks into different refrains and whatever.
So the title is G-D. And this is following the tradition of Jewish scholars who do not write the name of God. And so in their writings, it would be G-D. Why I chose to use that, I mean, I love that perspective of capturing the awe of God and not being able to entirely comprehend God and showing that in writing.
Yeah.
Does it feel a little forced in this situation? Or just maybe I'm trying to use it for more artistic purposes than actual reflective?
Yeah.
So that's the title, G-D.
Okay.
And do you think I should just try and read this whole thing?
I will say, I might just jump in.
Okay. This might be one of the longest ones I've ever brought to the table.
No kidding.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. The Holy One, separate and eternal, the immeasurable, undefined, being beyond comprehension, removed from creation, yet creator. God speaks. Before me no God was formed, nor shall there be any after me. Lord of all, standing beyond the shadows of reality, first before beginnings, last beyond end, never non-existent, forever formed yet formless.
Okay, hold up.
Yep.
Hold up. So, I think one of my favorite things in poetry is using words to describe how indescribable something is. It is the most infuriating thing. Like, I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
But you use so many words to say undefinable. But you also say undefined.
Yeah, it's like I'm overdoing it. I'm trying to grasp at the unknowableness of God, and I'm just word vomiting.
It does. It feels like spaghetti thrown against the wall. Like just seeing what sticks, and you're just throwing every single adjective you can bring to mind, and just like, if I throw out 15 different things, 2 of them will work.
Yeah,
cool?
Yeah. And all of these listings, this listicle that's broken up with God Speaks, they all have commas, just everywhere.
So many commas.
And yet I'm also breaking these up into 2-lined stanzas. The listing of names, at least, I guess, if you want to call these names. They're not even names, all of them.
No.
That's another thing. Like, I'm bouncing between kind of accepted titles of God and then kind of my own twists on ways of describing God, but they're all mishmashed in the same list.
Well, and it's already repeating itself, buddy. Like, no, before me no one was formed, no God was formed, nor shall it be after me. And then first before beginnings, last beyond end. It's It's the same idea.
It's the same. Let's see if I change it up at all. Okay, here's the next two. Yahweh. I am.
Okay. Pause.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, so to give more context to the G-D,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yahweh is the name that they are not speaking.
Right.
So you chose to not use our English word, but you included the name? You included the tetragrammaton, the four words?
I include the tetragrammaton. And I say God speaks. I spell out God multiple times in this poem. So I title it The Unspoken Name, and then I go ahead and use the English God, and then I use Yahweh, which is the kind of the anglicized Hebrew writing of the unpronounceable name. And then I go ahead and I use I am, all in capitals, which is the ego and me of the Greek of the Hebrew. I mean, it's...
Yes.
So,
So, there is a strong tradition that you could have pulled into this. The whole Adonai or Yehovah. Yehovah is switching out vowels in the tetragrammaton.
Yep.
I just, you are doing something so nerdy in how you're doing this, but also not nearly nerdy enough.
Not well. No, it's like a nerd would look at this and be sad. 'Cause it feels like I'm not. Yeah, exactly like you said. Not nerdy enough. I'm trying here. Okay, so we get the I am. Continuing within that stanza, the perpetual verb, the simple being, the simplest existence, the now. Not yet. It says new yet. Newer still. Oh, wait, no. The now, new yet, newer still. Oh, no, it is new. Okay. New yet, newer still. Ancient yet always.
Okay. Here's some inside baseball for everybody. David Fredrickson would love this poem.
Oh, yeah, he would.
He was a seminary professor. Nobody needs to get that other than Aaron. I don't care. This is not for you. Dear listeners, this is for me. This is for me and for all that Aaron is putting me through.
Oh, okay. Keep going. I could have said alpha and omega. I didn't.
The phrase that people use?
Yeah, but I preferred the now, new yet newer still, ancient yet always. It has a ring to it. Okay, next stanza. Spirit, dancing in chorus with oneself, redeeming, renewing, releasing, three yet never two, always one, the inseparable mystery.
Okay, so now we're into perichoresis, and you not understanding the Greek that it's not dancing around, it's indwelling.
But shall we dance with the Trinity? Shall we join the dance of Trinity, Dave? Okay, this is very inside baseball.
Oh my gosh.
This is like a seminarian coming out of Theology 101, or what was the first theology? It was Theology, God the Creator?
Yeah. The systematic theology.
Yep.
God the Creator.
Yeah, and this is the word vomit that comes out of someone who just took that class and is trying to regurgitate what they learned.
And was also clearly not paying attention because a lot of that class was just socialism, and I love it.
That's true. That's true. That was a great class. Okay, now I've done all these listings. And now I have God.
More listings.
I have no. I have a single word.
Sorry.
God.
See, it feels like you should have put Roman numerals. This should be a second section. That's what I was saying earlier, that it looks like it's titled, because then you have a couple other ones with individual name or individual concept.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not going to say it would save anything, but at least it would look more interesting.
It would look cleaner. And
yes.
Yeah. So this is all over the board. I mean,
oh my gosh.
So this first section that we have picked apart is 4 stanzas of lists with that God speaks interrupting between the first and the second stanza. And that's a 3-line stanza. Now we have this God in and of itself, followed by a 5-line stanza, which goes like this. God who is calling, God who is guiding, God who is defining. God is coming, yet God has come, beyond comprehension, yet revealed through promise, beyond reach, yet reached down grace, beyond touch, yet enfleshed.
Okay.
Okay.
So, to put it all together, it's the same stinking thing, Aaron. Brevity is the soul of wit, and this is completely devoid of both soul and wit.
Yeah.
So what is why is there just the one line God, and then the next word is God, but with a break?
Well, it's God with verbs and stuff. I mean, I think...
Well, you already had the perpetual verb, even though it's a present verb.
So I think what this was supposed to be is, after all of these listings of like the quote unquote names of God, which I'm clearly running fast and loose with that. I think this kind of solo God was supposed to be like a mic drop. Like, in case you didn't get it, God. Okay. Yeah, I'm reading this too with fresh eyes. This is I am so glad I did not take this to the pulpit.
I mean, this is the definition of why, when you're trying something new, run it by some people.
Run it by someone. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Someone who is willing to call you on, I like the idea, but no.
So we've had this turn, I guess. We've done all the big names for God, and now I think we're trying to break into
the second person of the Trinity.
Yeah, because the next line is Emmanuel.
Correct.
Christ, Messiah, Lord, Savior. Definition for the undefinable, revelation for the unrevealed, the paradox of the promise, God in flesh.
So you said you wrote this before 2022. Did someone, I'm just guessing here, give you a copy of Thesaurus?
Maybe.
I feel like that kind of works here.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm just running things through. Oh my gosh. I mean, I get what I'm doing here. I think the idea was, look, I've said how undefinable, immeasurable, blah, 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 beyond comprehension. I've given all this word vomit. And now I'm going to say, in Christ, we have a definition. We have a revelation. We have a promise. God in flesh. Mm-hmm. And yet, it is still definition for the undefinable, revelation for the unrevealed, the paradox. I mean, I would still just mashing it into, look how indescribable. Oh gosh, what is that? Is that a Mercy Me song or a Casting Crowns?
Yes.
Indescribable.
Unmistakable.
Chris Tomlin. I'm just doing that song again. That's all I'm doing.
Except that song is decent.
Indescribable, uncontainable. You place the stars in the sky and you know them by name. You are amazing. All powerful, untamable, awestruck. Yeah. It's the same concept, yet done so worse. So much worse. Okay, I have another kind of interlude here. I'm going to call it an interlude. I think these God speaks moments are supposed to be kind of reminiscent of God breaking into creation with revelation.
Right.
So here's God speaks. I am the Lord, and besides me there is no Savior.
It's interesting to put so much work into this and not use a direct scriptural quotation.
Yeah, I was like, am I using a very strange translation here? Is this like the Message, or it's Isaiah 43:11.
I am the Lord.
It's that double use of the Hebrew for emphasis.
Sure.
A reduplication. Yeah. But all the translation here have the even or the, and yet I chose to leave that out. So I just have the double I.
So this is the Aaron translation.
Kind of looks like it. I'm not finding a
Yikes.
direct. The closest one might be the Amplified Bible, where it's I and then in brackets only I. So I am the Lord, and there is no Savior besides me. What was I doing?
I don't know. Honest to goodness, I have no
gosh.
idea.
Okay, now it gets worse. Unbroken truth, yet truth obscured. The blind with eyes have failed to see. The deaf with ears have refused to listen. The poor have known suffering. The captive have experienced pain. The outcast beyond the boundaries remain untouched. Fear, pain, death, bending wills worshipped. No God, yet idols. The undelivered wait for Christ's coming. Bring them forth, for God is revealed. Gather them in for grace is given. Assemble the masses, for love has come. How shall we know? How shall they hear? God speaks. You are my witnesses.
So that's the end of the poem. And so that is why, Bishop Elizabeth Eaton, I have brought you on this Zoom call. Because we need to talk.
We need to take away my pulpit privileges for a bit. I said this was for Lent. I'm starting to wonder if this was for Advent.
I was going to say, I'm not seeing Lent.
This
I'm hearing Emmanuel. I'm hearing about promise and future.
Yeah, and my previous call had Wednesday services where I had to fill 4 Wednesdays with reflection. So I'm pivoting in my story here. I think 2021 Advent Reflections. I think this was a failed Advent Reflections.
Doesn't really matter. Because, to be fair, it also fails. I mean,
it fails miserably at everything.
It fails in each direction, yeah.
This would have been atrocious for a congregation to sit through. How did I even envision this being spoken word poetry for reflection?
I will give you this.
Okay.
When you are in a creative mode, you run with stuff. Like that's a good positive thing about being in a creative mode. You can run with something and thank everything that is holy and good that, you listen to advice and were like, oh yeah, I enjoyed working on this and it will sit in a Google Drive folder for a while. And that's just where it will languish.
It will find its place on this show. And nowhere else.
On the dust heap of history.
Wow. This is so bad. There's no direction to this. It's so haphazard. The styles change up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, thank goodness for Abby to just tell it to me straight. I don't think I even made it halfway through this poem before she cut me off and said, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And rightly so. Yeah.
So I guess I have a question for Abby then. She has a good track record of stopping your bad ideas. Mm-hmm. Why did she allow this podcast to happen then?
That is beyond me. So I will say, there's nothing redeemable about this poem. It's very word vomity. It's very stream of conscious. Mm-hmm. And I think it fails at the reflective nature that I was going for.
Yeah.
I think there are poems that can really evoke deep reflection on like who we are in this world. And in this case, what our faith means in conversation with the world and our creator. And this poem doesn't do it.
Yeah. If I was asked, say, like, I don't know, a question like good or garbage,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
I would have to say there's a Greek word, Gehenna. And I don't, there has been now some conflicting stuff in what I have heard and learned about this idea of Gehenna.
Really?
Whether it actually was
a burning fire pit?
Fiery trash dump, yeah. But no matter what,
Uh-huh.
Gehenna, Sheol, Hades, whatever, that's where this poem belongs.
We just wrecked an awful poem that was not a sermon. So,
Praise
praise
to
be.
God.
Praise be to God.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah. Wow. We're going to end each week with the words of a true poet here at My Bad Poetry to redeem a little bit of what you just heard. And cleanse all of us from that garbage fire. This is from Danez Smith, who's born in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Hey, I've been there.
And yeah, and they co-host a podcast, Versus, with Franny Choi. So I'm going to have to check that out. Lives in Minneapolis. Danez, you should be on our show.
I don't know, after hearing this,
They might not want to. And rightfully so. So this is a poem called Little Prayer by Danez Smith. Let ruin end here. Let him find honey where there was once a slaughter. Let him enter the lion's cage and find a field of lilacs. Let this be the healing, and if not, let it be.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. See, that is an example of a poem
Yeah.
that does incredible legwork with very few words.
I mean,
And-
you can just leave it at that's a poem.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
like that is, in my definition, a big part of what poetry does, is using fewer words but more descriptive and evoking meaning rather than describing
Jamming
and
it down your
re-describing.
throat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say, since this podcast, I have learned so much about poetry.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that this show has shown me ways of identifying bad poetry and ways of editing poetry. So hopefully, if I ever do get the bug to write reflective poems for my current call or future calls, this type of garbage will not will not see the light of day.
You have really grown as a poet, because your stuff from high school and college, oof baboof, and your stuff from even a couple years back, oof baboof.
Yeah.
But you've written some beautiful stuff.
And I think I've also written some garbage that has not been shared. This being the case, I think everyone out there should not be afraid to, again, get into that creative mode and just write. And if it turns out to be garbage the next day when you open up that Google Doc, hey, you've tried.
Yeah. Well, that's the Daily Poet. I bought that, and I've been doing that, and I will never share anything that I write from that, because it's like, I can't write for other people. I think it's that earnestness. I can't be earnest. I can't be honest. I can't be like that in my writing. I just express differently. And so my poetry is for me and me alone.
Well, we got to remember to get the tag before I forget and have to request our guest to send in an MP3 after the fact.
We've been recording this podcast for 5 years, Aaron.
Thanks, Kelly Scott Reed, for being willing to send in not one, but 2 takes of you with the end tag.
You were the best.
Yeah. We'll be in touch as far as you wanting us on the word. After hearing this, you might rescind that invitation.
You should. You should.
Yeah. we would understand.
Yeah.
This has been My Bad Poetry.
Now go write some of your own bad poetry, and preferably don't use it for a worship service. I mean, just write bad poetry, but then you can figure it out from there what you should do with it.
Yeah. Figure out if it's worth sharing in public, and have
Edit.
good friends. Have good friends and
Edit.
maybe spouses and loved ones tell you no.
Yes.
Rhyme or free, doesn't matter.